Hello, everyone, dear viewers of the channel. I am Helena, the guardian of secrets, a researcher of mystical phenomena, and here with me is Vadim, a historian interested in folk culture. Today, we delve into a fascinating duality that shaped Ukrainian village life for centuries: the babka-znakharka, the grandmother healer, versus the village priest. These two figures often stood at opposing ends, yet paradoxically, they both served the spiritual and practical needs of the people. It's a testament to the deep-seated spiritual hunger of our ancestors.
Indeed, Helena. It's a classic example of cultural syncretism, where older, pre-Christian beliefs and practices coexisted, sometimes uncomfortably, with the newly adopted Christian faith. The Church, as an institution, clearly sought to establish its sole authority, but the reality on the ground was far more nuanced and, frankly, messy. People lived by what worked for them.
Exactly. While the priest offered spiritual salvation and the promise of the afterlife, the babka-znakharka was the one you went to for immediate earthly concerns. A child with a persistent cough, a cow that wouldn't milk, a young person suffering from unrequited love, or even someone suspected of being jinxed. These were problems the priest couldn't or wouldn't address with holy water alone.
And quite often, the babka's efficacy was rooted in practical knowledge, traditional herbal medicine, rudimentary psychological counseling, or even just the powerful placebo effect of belief. Many znakharki were repositories of centuries-old knowledge about local plants, natural remedies, and human behavior. They understood the community's anxieties.
But it was more than just herbs, Vadim. It was the ritual, the whispered words, the touch, the profound belief that this woman, often an elder, possessed a connection to something beyond the mundane. I've heard stories of babki who could whisper away a fright, an illness, or even evil spirits. People truly believed she could mend the invisible wounds of the soul. There was an energy, a protective field they felt emanating from her.
And quite often, those whispered words are particularly interesting from a historical perspective. They are often ancient incantations, pagan in origin, but sometimes subtly blended with Christian prayers or invocations. The babka wasn't necessarily a sorceress in the modern sense. She was often seen as a conduit, a vessel for healing energy, drawing from both the natural world and sometimes, surprisingly, the very Christian saints the Church venerated.
And that's where the true complexity lies. A peasant might go to church on Sunday to light a candle and confess, then, facing a stubborn wart or a persistent fever, quietly slip away to the babka on Monday for a specific ritual. How did they reconcile these two seemingly contradictory systems within themselves? It wasn't a choice between one or the other. It was often both.
They reconciled it through what historians call syncretism, Helena. They simply incorporated elements of both. A babka might use a cross during her ritual or invoke the Mother of God while performing a traditional charm. The lines blurred. For the average villager, the effectiveness of the remedy often trumped the theological purity of its source. It was a pragmatic approach to spirituality.
And sometimes the blending was truly profound. I remember a legend from Policia where a babka was called to a dying child. She performed a complex ritual, invoking ancient forest spirits, but then she took the child's tiny hand, made the sign of the cross over it, and recited the Our Father prayer backward to bind the illness. The combination was chillingly powerful, blurring the sacred and the profane in a desperate plea for life.
A fantastic example of that cultural overlap. From the Church's perspective, such practices were blasphemous and anathema. Priests frequently preached against superstitious beliefs and pagan rites, sometimes even refusing communion to those who consulted znakharki. There was a constant struggle for authority over the spiritual lives of the villagers.
But the Church couldn't always offer the immediate, tangible solutions people sought. A priest could offer spiritual solace for a bad harvest, but he couldn't perform a ritual to ensure fertile soil next year or cure a mysteriously ailing child with an unknown ailment. The babka filled that gap, addressing the raw, urgent needs that Christianity, in its institutional form, sometimes couldn't touch.
So what we see is a societal division of labor almost. The priest handled the formal rites of passage, the moral framework, and the path to salvation. The babka dealt with the practical challenges of daily life, health, and protection against perceived malevolent forces. Both were indispensable to the functioning of the community, even if one was officially sanctioned and the other often tolerated or even secretly respected.
The babka truly represented the unbroken thread of ancient Ukrainian belief, a direct link to our ancestral connection with nature, with the earth, and with unseen forces. Her remedies weren't just about healing, they were about affirming one's place in the world, about being protected by the spirits of the land. Losing that knowledge means losing a part of our deep cultural identity.
And the resilience of these folk practices, despite centuries of Christianization, speaks volumes about their deep roots and their cultural significance. They weren't just superstitions, they were a holistic worldview that helped people navigate a world that was often harsh and inexplainable. The magic was often in the meaning and the sense of control it offered.
So, in the end, it wasn't simply a conflict, but a complex coexistence. The Ukrainian peasant, in their heart and practice, often found a way to be both a devout Christian and a believer in the power of the babka. It was a way to embrace all avenues of spiritual and practical support available.
Precisely. It highlights the incredible adaptability of folk culture. Ultimately, both figures provided comfort, a sense of order, and a connection to something larger than themselves, whether it was divine grace or the ancient wisdom of the land. A beautiful testament to the human spirit's need for meaning.
If you found this discussion as fascinating as we did, please don't forget to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you don't miss our next dive into Ukrainian mystical traditions. It's a powerful reminder that our past is not neatly categorized, but a vibrant tapestry where faith and folk wisdom intertwine, creating a unique spiritual landscape that still resonates today.
And we'd love to hear your thoughts. Have you heard similar stories from your own family or region? Share them in the comments below. Your insights help us uncover even more layers of this incredible heritage.